This episode of Empty Betters is brought to you by DraftKings. The NBA 82 game grid is done, and now the real fun begins. The NBA playoffs are here, and it's time for the high stakes drama, clutch moments, and jaw dropping plays. I can't wait. If you're looking to make the playoffs even more exciting, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered as an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Try placing a bet on your favorite player's performance. Will they drop 30 points, 40 or more? It's your call. Here's something special for first timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in New Hampshire, Oregon, and Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ftball. NFL Plus premium offer available only to new and former NFL Plus subscribers. Additional NFL Plus premium terms at nfl.com/terms.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the best episode of the year, episode 257 of Empty Betters, giving you your round one Western Conference previews for this year's Stanley Cup Playoffs. I'm going to toss it across the screen to my co-host, Mr. Nick Manella.
Boys, another chapter is about to be written in the greatest story ever told, the quest for the Stanley Cup. Fired up, best time of the year. Shit, like I can already feel myself starting to get stressed out about this, but it's the good kind of stress. It's the best kind of stress. The only thing we're missing right now is just Doc Emmerich's intro on like a Sunday 1 p.m. hockey game where I'm just praying that the Caps don't bottle it. Like I live for this, and I know you guys do too. So fired up to be here with you boys for 257.
Believe this is what we would all say is our favorite episodes to record and time of year. Round one, it's the best. It's like March Madness when you get your first two games, round of 64 and 32. And I believe this might be the first year in this podcast history where the Capitals have a little bit of expectations going into this, which makes this way more fun for me. But I'm going to toss it across the screen to my other co-host, Mac Vogel. What's going on?
Yeah, we're here. We made it. I can't believe we're working on game 81 and 82 for most teams here. God, I'm so excited for this weekend. And nervous and scared. And yeah, sometimes you ask yourself why we put ourselves through this kind of shit, but it's all in good fun and it's the best kind of stress there is. So I'm excited.
Nick, am I right in saying that since 2019, this is probably the first year the Caps have had like legit expectations?
I think there was some expectations put on them in 19. They lost to
Yeah.
Carolina in double overtime of that game seven, which sucked
Hmm.
for many different reasons. But yeah, it's definitely, I think, since then, easily the best team they've had coming into a postseason, miles better than last year. I mean, that's not even a question. So
Yeah, I will say since I came aboard in 2020, this is by far, I mean, we've qualified a handful of times. I don't think any of them, anybody, including myself, had really any expectations of them making a deep run. Don't want to jinx anything this year. I know there's a ton of different roadblocks they could run into, and that could start right from the get-go. But I would agree with you, Harry, that this is definitely the first year of the show where there's some real money on the table.
Well, we've got a pretty crowded episode, as you could probably imagine. We are going to fly, and I mean fly, through some of the league news. And then the bulk of the episode will be spent doing the previews. And then at the very end of this episode, we will give our official round one picks. We're all going 4-0, and it's going to be great, just like we did last year, right? Haha. All right, let's start with the league news. So the Winnipeg Jets, they win the President's Trophy for the first time in franchise history. For those wondering, the 2013 Blackhawks were the last team to win the President's Trophy and then win the Stanley Cup in the same season. So it's been 12 years since it's been done. and Winnipeg is looking to break that streak. Are you guys relieved the Capitals didn't win the President's Trophy?
Very much so.
100%.
Mission accomplished. Good job, Winnipeg.
Next, the Rangers. They become the fourth team to miss the playoffs after winning the President's Trophy the previous season. Like I said, it's only been done four times. The Rangers have done it twice, once in 92, 93, and then this season. The other two teams would be the Sabres in '08 and the Boston Bruins in 2015. So
So what I'm
uh,
hearing is the Rangers are the only team to do it twice.
that is what you are hearing, and that would be
Okay.
correct.
Just making sure I heard that right.
Yeah, you got a good filter system in your ears there. I
There we
like it.
go. Yeah.
And then Nick, I know you're going to want to comment on this, but congrats to Western Michigan, who defeated BU to win their first national championship in school history for
Yeah.
men's ice hockey, and they did it with no NIL money, which is damn impressive.
Yes, they did. I know that is a huge win for that program. They gave Sparty fits in the first round last year, and I think it was just a little bit of foreshadowing to what was to come here. But hats off to that program. I don't know if you guys saw any of the videos of partying on that campus, but it just looked like everything was on fire. So, yeah, they're having a great time, and I know they've got a beautiful rink coming there soon. I think they put like $500 million into it. So could not be happier for them. That's just a fantastic win for that program in their first trip ever to the Frozen Four.
And I'm sure you're happy to hear about this, but your boy, the Iceman, Isaac Howard, wins the Hobie Baker and has declared that he will be returning to Michigan State
Correct.
next season.
Yeah, so I guess it turns out that the NIL money is a lot more than you can make in the AHL for a Tampa-based team. So I think that was a no-brainer for the Iceman there.
For sure. We'll see how that contract situation plays out with Tampa. A couple retirements to mention, and then we will start our playoff previews. Shout out to Logan Couture. He hasn't played since January 31st of 2024 due to a nagging groin injury. He has a weird, I was reading up on this. He has some, I don't know if it's genetic or if it's like overuse injury or what, but like the front of his pelvis has like been deteriorating, is what I read in an article. And to dumb it down a little bit, I could be butchering that, but pretty serious stuff. Pretty emotional in his retirement speech, but that guy was a warrior, playoff performer. I remember him going against the Pens in that 16 final. He was a dog. So shout out to him for a great career.
Hats off, Coochie.
Yeah, one of the most clutch playoff performers I think we've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. And then Alec Martinez being the other retirement, won three cups in his career. 2012 and 14 with the Kings, and then in 2023 with the Golden Knights. And we all will remember him for destroying the New York Rangers franchise in 2014 with that cup winning goal in overtime. So shout out to Martinez on one hell of a career.
Yeah, he also got the overtime winner in Game 7 against the Hawks to go to the Cup final that year, right?
I think he did. That was like a weird, like either deflection or it hit traffic and no one knew it went in. And then Doc went nuts and we were like, oh my God, what a hell of a series. Um, they don't make them like they used to. That's all I'm gonna
They
say.
don't.
Those series and that production quality was peak. But
Fix it, ESPN. Fix it.
yes. That about wraps it up for our league news. Now we will dive into our round one Western Conference preview. And we are going to kick it off with what I am going to declare myself as the most entertaining series, probably in either conference, in my opinion, for round one. These guys might disagree, but for me, this is what I think is going to be the best one. And that is the Dallas Stars and the Colorado Avalanche. This is going to be a doozy. Nick, you want to kick off the preview with our season series stats?
Absolutely. So Colorado won the season series 2-1. Every single one of these games went over 6.5. I think that is absolutely crazy. But Harry, I have to agree with you. On paper, I don't know if this is the one I'm necessarily looking forward to the most. This is the most loaded. I mean, this is yet again another just crazy first round matchup to come out of the West that Dallas has to go through. Last year, they had that crazy series against Vegas. This year, they run into a complete buzzsaw in the Colorado Avalanche. So this is going to be a doozy.
For sure. There's a lot of drama going into this one. We've got a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot. There's a couple guys on Dallas who probably have some personal motives in this one. Obviously, we all know about Rantanen. I don't think Colorado wanted this to happen in their wildest dreams when they dealt him to Carolina, but here we are. So he's going against his old squad. Duchesne, a lot of people are overlooking that one. That wasn't exactly an easy breakup when he departed, so he's got a little.
Nichushkin.
Nichushkin going back to Dallas, yep. And then what will probably be the biggest storyline is Gabriel Landeskog. After 3 years of not playing when he got his groin sliced in that playoff run, he hasn't played a game since the Avalanche hoisted the Stanley Cup in 2022. He is coming back to the Colorado lineup, which is going to be nuts.
That has to be one of the best injury comebacks in pro sports, right? Because as we've stated, I think on a couple episodes on the run up to this, no hockey player has had this injury or these procedures and returned to NHL action afterwards. So he is going to be the first to do this, which I think is just insane, especially when you consider the fact that the guy is not young.
Yeah, definitely happy for him. I think well, let's see how it goes before we call it the greatest story ever. I'm rooting for the guy, but you just never know. We've seen it with Backstrom and other guys in the league try to come back, just can't do it. So it'll be interesting to see how effective he is and how if he's gonna jump right back into where he was or it's hard for me to imagine that he's not gonna at least have a little bit of an adjustment period here playing, your first game in over 2 years and let alone it's a playoff game too.
Against the Dallas Stars, who
Yeah.
we got to mention are a pretty darn good team themselves. So there's a lot going on in this series. In terms of Dallas, I mentioned Rantanen already, but Dallas is the odds-on Cup favorite according to DraftKings to win the Cup this year. They have the best odds out of any team in the postseason right now. They have been Nick's preseason Cup pick and a lot of other people's Cup picks for the last like 3 or 4 seasons. I would say they have probably maybe the most pressure in terms of their roster to get it done. So this is going to be a great test in the first round.
Absolutely. I mean, this team is loaded. I mean, prior to the show, you and I were talking about, you mentioned that third line, Jamie Ben, Wyatt Johnston, and Mikko Rantanen. Are you kidding me? That is like a franchise mode, like 20 years into the future third line or something ridiculous like that. So this team's loaded. Obviously, they come in banged up. Let's get this out of the way right now. Miro Heiskanen not being available potentially for this series, I think this is the storyline to me. I know Rantanen's going back against the Avs, but you take Miro Heiskanen out of this Dallas Stars lineup, it's a completely different team. You put Miro Heiskanen back into this Dallas Stars lineup, it's a completely different team. So that is the most valuable player they have. I don't know who else you can turn to lug. He was lugging 25 minutes on average in the regular season. I would expect that goes up to like 29 or 30 in the post. So yeah, I just think that's such a huge loss for them. I honestly I don't know what that's going to do to that roster.
Yep. Tyler Sagan coming back. That's a big win for Dallas. So it looks like he'll be back for their last game of the regular season, from what I'm reading right now, and then he should be back for game one. So, when you look at offenses, it's pretty close, but I think given the star power here, I think people would probably say Colorado. The defense. Depends who you ask. I think Heiskanen being out probably, in my opinion, gives a slight edge to Colorado just because they have Makar, but Dallas is pretty deep. The goaltending, and I would love to hear Mac's opinion on this. This is where the series is probably going to be determined. I know you could probably say that about every series, but this is a big test for Jake Ottinger, a guy who was the third string goalie on that Four Nations team. He's probably going to be on the Olympic team. He's beyond that like rookie getting the experience phase, and now he's entering what I would say is the early part of his prime.
Yeah, I think you nailed it with the comparisons. I think for me, if they had Miro, I'd give the edge to Dallas in terms of blue line. But yeah, between the pipes, I think no doubt, both starting goalies at their prime, no doubt Dallas has the edge there. We don't know what we're gonna get. At least I don't think we know what we're gonna get for Colorado in terms of wood squared, Blackwood and Wedgwood. They've been solid ever since they kind of shook up their goaltending situation over there in Colorado. But you just never know if that's sustainable through the playoffs. So that's kind of the main thing I've got my eye on. I just think that I'm not really worried about Ottinger. I do think that this is just going to come down to the Heiskanen thing. I have a hard time seeing Dallas as the Cup favorite without him in the lineup.
And arguably without him at like anything above 80%.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I believe I read on Twitter before we started the episode, I think it was Chris Johnston who tweeted it, but like some people were saying maybe Heiskanen could come back in the middle of the series. He'd miss game one, and Johnston basically said it's a kind of a pipe dream at this point to think that he's going to play in round one from what he's hearing. So we'll see what happens. I do want to ask a couple fun questions here. Like I said, the predictions will be at the end, but got DraftKings up here. If you had to pick a player other than Nathan McKinnon to score the most goals in this series, who would you choose?
From either team?
Either team, but just don't choose McKinnon because he's by far and away the favorite to score the most goals.
I'm gonna go hints.
I like that. He has the fifth, no, I'm sorry, sixth longest odds. He's at plus 1,000.
Ooh, I don't even want to know what my guy is going to be at. I've got a little bit of a hot take. I'm going to go Wyatt Johnston.
Wyatt Johnson actually is the third
Oh,
longest
okay.
odds,
All
so
right.
plus 750.
Where
Okay.
is Drouin on that list? I feel
Ooh.
like he would be a little bit higher than people would expect given the back half of the year he's had.
Um, Let me see if I can. I'm scrolling a little bit, so let's
Okay,
put
so
it.
yeah, so I'm wrong.
I don't even think I see him on here. Yeah, I don't even think I see him on here,
Damn.
unless I'm blind, which is totally possible. But I digress. Long odds. Um, so yeah, that's that's the preview for these guys. I would say this is probably like two A-list cup contenders going at it in round one. Sucks if you're a Stars fan, like Nick said, back-to-back years, and you've got probably the most loaded team going up against you. So,
Yeah, I
um,
think Mac makes some good points about goaltending. Ottinger can steal you games at times. I don't know if I necessarily would look at the woodshed like that and go, I count on you guys to do that. But then again, it's the playoffs. Then again, sometimes goalies step up and just take control, and
Yep.
sometimes they just need the spotlight to, get it going and let them know that, hey, I can do this in the postseason and we can compete and beat anyone night in and night out. I also think Dallas, you guys mentioned it too. They're definitely a little bit deeper. Definitely a little bit deeper down the middle. I know Colorado did some good stuff at the deadline. They brought in Coyle, they bring in Nelson. I think those guys are extremely valuable to have in the postseason. So this is going to be a wild one. This is so hard to call for me.
worth noting, it's essentially a pick 'em. Only series out west where there's not like a pretty clear favorite based on the odds. But we'll give our picks at the end. Like I said earlier, we're going to move on to the LA Kings and the Edmonton Oilers, round four. Ding, ding, ding. Let me just say this before we start. I hate the playoff format, but I would imagine when Gary and co cooked this thing up, this is what they wanted because they just created a rivalry that already had Gretzky history in there, but now these guys are going on round four, fourth year in a row playing each other in the first round. So in terms of the season series, LA won the season series 3-1. Pretty interesting stat. Out of the four games they played against each other this season, three of the games featured a shutout from one of the squads. So I just found that kind of odd and also unexpected. What do
They
you
also
guys
they
think?
played like twice in the last like week and a half, right?
And it got
So
chippy, yeah.
yeah, and a couple of those games were, I think both of those games were without 97 and 29 in the lineup for the Oilers.
Yep, yep. So I'll tee it off and then hand it off to you, Nick. But essentially, what I would say is the big storyline, other than the history here, the Oilers are they're on the top floor of like Alberta Hospital right now. Like they got the entire lineup in Band-Aids. Who knows what's gonna happen come game one? Like it's hard to we're recording this on a Wednesday night. Game one at the earliest would be Saturday. It's hard to predict who's gonna be playing, who's not. Knobloch's not gonna give any details, but with what we know now, I would imagine most of them go. But Nick, what are your thoughts just on this series in general?
I mean, here we go again. And this is now getting to me starting to feel like what it was like when the Caps had to play the Rangers, like starting in Mac, what was that, like 2010? And then it was like 11, 12, 14, like just over and over again. And eventually it's like you've got to just get through this. If you're LA,
Yep.
eventually you have to find a way to break this down. Because Harry, like you mentioned at the start, this is the playoff format. And Bettman has said, I'm not changing the playoff format. You guys keep saying 1 through 8. We're sticking with what we got. So I don't think it's too crazy to think that we could be right back here 365 days from now and saying, oh, LA and Edmonton again, 5 years in a row. Here we go again. So, yeah, this is going to get crazy. This is going to take all of 20 seconds to get really, really chippy. I really like this LA Kings team. I've kind of started to watch a lot of their games the back half of this year. They're just a really, really fun team to watch. They are a big team, a physical team. They love to clog you up and just frustrate the shit out of you. I think they've got great depth down the middle. Guys like, you talk about it, like Byfield has been incredible. I think Alex Laferriere has been one of their best players all year. And, he doesn't mind mixing it up. Kempe, Fiala have looked fantastic. Kemper in net, that's a goaltender that's won a Stanley Cup in the last 5 years. So, yeah, I really like what I see about this LA team. I mean, what else can I say about Edmonton that hasn't been said 1,000 times between the end of last year and the beginning of this one? So, it's the 97 and 29 show, and if they're healthy, it'll be great. If not, this is going to be a pretty quick series.
Yeah, I'm pretty much with Nick all across the board here. I'm big on LA. I agree, with Edmonton, it is about McDavid and Leon, but even if those guys are healthy, I say it all the time. It's just it's not my favorite team lineup wise. I think there's a lot more holes than people realize. I know they went to the Cup final last year, Game 7, one win away, but yeah, I just don't. I don't. I don't have the Oilers fever this year or really any year. So,
I say, when did you have it?
yeah.
Speaking of Oilers fever, Harry, where are we? Harry, where are we on the Oilers this year?
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, I'm notorious for this. So if they get Evander Kane back, which I'm reading is a possibility here come game one, he hasn't played since game 7 in Florida last year. He's been out all season. So that's a pretty big uh addition to the lineup. I mean, we've seen Evander Kane in the playoffs a few seasons ago where I think he had like 14 goals or something like that. So he's very capable of performing in the postseason. The Ekholm injury is the kicker, and that's like their ace horse, shut down D man, hogs minutes, can really play physical. That is a kick in the dick to not have him available the entire round.
That's
That's
their
the
reliable defenseman. Let's be real. I mean,
Yeah, and that's the thing that I'm iffy. Usually I'd be all over Edmonton, but with that injury, I'm questioning myself. I will say this. If I've learned one thing this season, I've learned that there are lines for a reason, and Edmonton at minus 135 to win this series is screaming and begging for you to take LA, and everyone was going to do it because they're at plus money, they're plus 115, and that tells me that there's something that I don't know that they do know, and I might have to wager the Oilers. We'll see. I'm not sure.
again,
Again, for like the fifth season in a row. Mac, what do you think?
I don't know. I definitely think like what you're saying, there's truth to it. But I almost want you to take the Oilers because then I would feel even better about the Kings winning. Um,
Fair enough.
yeah, I don't know. The Ekholm thing is a big piece as well. Him not being in, I think matters a lot. It's so hard, like looking at like trying to look at like daily faceoff for any of these teams right now too, because you can't tell what's a real injury, who's just sitting out because they're like a little nicked up and they want to rest for the
right.
postseason. So it is really hard to try and like go based off of like what lineups we think each of these teams are going to shell out. But I don't know. Everything vibes wise and gut wise is telling me it's time for the Kings to exercise the demons.
The Kings just seem like so, and this is going to sound stupid, but they just seem like so much more of a team to me. Whereas like Edmonton is
Yeah.
like, okay, we've got like these five guys who are
Yes.
good and these two who are really good. But
Hmm.
then it's like, oh, wait, this isn't gym class. We need the full
Exactly.
hockey team.
Right.
I want to see a little something out of Victor Arvidsson going against his old squad. I don't think he's had a particularly great season this year. This could be a good chance for him to kind of prove himself. I do think Edmonton's a little deeper than some people are giving him credit for. I'll say this. If 97 and 29, I don't care if they're even 100%. If they're above like 80 and they're playing, I have a hard time picking against those two. And LA's good. But they're not Dallas, they're not Colorado, they're not Vegas. I don't know if those guys have what it takes to shut these guys down, but like at some point, like 4 years in a row, that's hard to do.
Right.
My biggest thing with Edmonton is I think their defense is so weak. And if there's no Ekholm, it's like really bad in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm not going to dispute that one. It's
I mean, don't get me
it's
wrong,
rough.
LA isn't like even probably a top 10 D core in the league either, in my opinion, but
But it's stable.
it's much, much more serviceable. Yeah.
Yeah. How do we feel about goaltending in this one? I feel like we can agree it's like forward you give to Edmonton, defense you can probably give to LA. Where do you guys stand on goaltending here?
I think obviously
Hmm.
Kemper has had a great year in LA. It's been a good fit for him for him to go back there. Big bounce back year for him after he didn't really have the best tenure in Washington. And I mean across the aisle here with the Oilers. How many times do I have to talk about
Stewie.
Hey, he made it
Cal
to game
Pickard
seven
and
last
Stuart
year.
Skinner?
He made it to game
Yay!
seven. I'm not saying he's great, but he's made it to game seven.
Good for him.
I'd probably give the edge to LA in goal,
Yeah.
if I'm being honest.
I would as well, because Kemper's won a Stanley Cup. So
Yeah, well, Stu was one game away. He was one goal away, I think, actually. But you
Yeah,
know,
but what do they say? Almost only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades or some shit like that.
very true.
close but no cigar, one of my favorite terms.
Hmm.
Um, I just want to ask one last question about this series. Why do I have the feeling this is going to be the chippiest one? This just scream like Evander Kane, Corey Perry, and then you've got, Byfield can mix it up. Doughty's certainly going to be mixing it up. Danault's going to be in the face of McDavid the entire series. I don't know. There's a lot of great matchups here. It screams chippy.
I agree with you, but I think maybe to segue into our next series, I can think of one Western matchup that might be a little bit more nails.
Okay. And I would probably agree with you on that. So we will move into our next series. We've got the Winnipeg Jets, President's Trophy winners, against the St. Louis Blues, the hottest team in the NHL since March 15th. Winnipeg coming in at minus 180 to win the series. St. Louis at plus 155 as the underdogs. Winnipeg won the season series 3 games to 1. Three of those games came down to the wire. One goal games, and one of them with an empty net. So, pretty close season series here. I don't think it's any secret there's two teams in this postseason where you kind of think, yeah, they should and they could, but and it's probably the Leafs and the Jets because we've seen this story time and time again. Winnipeg has lost in the first round the past 2 seasons in a row. They lost last year, shockingly, in five to Colorado, and the season before that, also in 5 games to Vegas. But things are different now. They're a wagon. Their goalie just had one of the best seasons in goaltending history, and they're probably what I would say is like the team who really needs to exercise the demons this year. There's gonna be a lot of different changes. So what do you guys think heading into this series, just as a vibe check?
Yeah, I think you nailed it with the Hellebuck thing. I think the other thing that really stands out for me about this Winnipeg team is that Connor Scheifele and Perfetti all had career high points years. And I feel like that's kind of flying under the Hellebuck radar right now, just because that's what everyone's going to focus on. But huge years for those guys. This Jets team is good. we have seen them, what, Mac, twice this year play against the Caps, and
Yep.
they handled them both times, right? Or
Um,
was it a split?
I believe we lost both, but
Okay.
we held our own, at least in the second game. I don't remember the first one.
This team is big, heavy, fast. They are just so frustrating. I remember Mac and I texting about the second time these two teams played. And Mac, I think your comment was it's like there's no time. It's like the second you get the puck, they are in your face. And it kind
Yep.
of reminds me the way the Finnish World Junior team plays, where it's like in the neutral zone, they're just going to swarm you. You're going to have
Yeah.
nowhere to go. One's going to hit you, the other one's going to take the puck off you, and then they're going the other way with Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, and Cole Perfetti. So, I mean,
Yep.
what do you do to slow that down?
They definitely suffocate you pretty good. I think what stands out to me about Winnipeg is they're such a like positionally sound team. Like they just if you watch them, they just play their positions so well. Everybody knows where they're supposed to be on the ice, and that's kind of how they end up taking away all that time and space from good hockey teams that they play against. It's just playing good, sound positional hockey. And it's not the kind of team that you can really come back against. I think I want to say there was a stat when we were playing the Jets most recently, which was only a couple weeks ago. At Don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure it was that when leading after two periods this year, the Jets are like, I don't know, it was like 30-0-1 or some shit like that. Like they've lost like one time when they're holding a lead after two periods. So it's gonna be about the Blues being able to strike first and about the Blues being able to not get buried by, 2 and 3 goal leads in games.
Do you guys see the President's Trophy curse rearing its head here for another year?
Well, let me say this. This is a perfect storm if you're St. Louis because Winnipeg has the history to blow these expectations and they, lose in the first round. And St. Louis is hotter than any team in the NHL right now. And I just got a feeling that Monty's going to have those boys ready. I don't think this is going to be a five game series like some people might be saying. Um, the other cool storyline here, we're getting a Four Nations gold medal game rematch, Bennington versus
Yes.
Hellebuck. That's pretty sweet. Um, Bennington has found his way here ever since that tournament. St. Louis broke a franchise record, 12 wins in a row coming down the stretch of the season. Kind of cooled off a little bit in the last week, but Robert Thomas, we got to talk about this guy. He has the second most points in the NHL since March 15th. The only player with more points is going to be the Art Ross winner, Nikita Kucherov. So this guy is hot right now. Um, Dylan Holloway being out for the Blues is tough. He's had a great season, 26 goals on the year. From what I've read, he's week to week with a lower body. We'll see when he comes back, if he comes back. But I think St. Louis can put up a good fight here, fellas. I'm just going to say that.
I agree. I'm gonna agree with you and go ahead and call this a trap series for Winnipeg, especially with, like you said, how hot St. Louis has been coming in. I know huge difference between regular season and postseason, but they look good, and I think the way that St. Louis is built could give a lot of problems to the Winnipeg Jets. There, you can draw a lot of similarities between these two teams, I think, when it comes to, some of their depth forwards and some of their defensemen and just the way they move the puck. But yeah, I don't know. This is going to be wild, but yeah, Robert Thomas, I think, we were talking about this the other day, is hands down got to be the most underrated player in the NHL right now.
Let's talk about the nails aspect of this series that we alluded to before. I think that obviously both of these teams kind of have a reputation for some chippy shit. Winnipeg more so. They're just sort of like the Caps of the West in that they love the big bodies. They love a physical game. They finish their checks even when it's not playoffs. Guys like Sandberg, Logan Stanley, these big rig defenders. That's the type of guys that they kind of build their lineup around. So look for dudes like that. Um, Morgan Barron, I'm sure will be mixing it up a little bit. He's another big
Appleton,
body throwing his weight around. Yep, Appleton.
Tanev.
Yeah, Tanev's not afraid to get in the mix as well. So they've got their share Who do we think is going to answer the bell on the other side of the rink?
Pareko.
Think
Yep.
Pareko could, even though
Yep.
they're probably going to tell him not to,
Yep.
just because they need
Shen
him.
Shen is probably not afraid to mix it up a little bit too.
We
Shen
got
will chuck it.
Battle of
Sunquist can.
Shens, right? Because Luke is now in Winnipeg. So we got
Yeah.
the Shen
Yes,
brothers going
that's
up
right.
against each
That's
other.
right.
Sunquist, former Penguin, physical player, he could chuck him. I think Matthew Joseph could chuck him too. So, we'll see. I agree. This has the potential to be like the big bad body fuck you Western hockey that our buddy Heat Daddy always talks about. These teams feel like they're built the same, you know?
I would love to see this Blues team get hot, continue this run, and somehow run into the Edmonton Oilers, who literally gave away Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway for absolutely fucking nothing. And just to have them shove it up Edmonton's hoop, that would be incredible.
That would be a good one. I also think if you had LA in Winnipeg or something like that, it's a lot of, Velarde, I follow that whole
Right.
thing. That'd be kind of cool. Let me ask you guys this. Obviously, between the two teams, I think we could all agree Kyle Connor is probably the best offensive player in this series. But if you had to choose someone to score the most goals in this series other than Kyle Connor, who would you choose?
Across both teams again.
Hmm.
Cairo. He led the Blues in goals all season.
That would be my answer too. He's got the fourth longest odds, so plus 700.
This is a tough one because I feel like both of these teams are able to spread the wealth a lot. Like there's
Right.
not they're deep. I see this being a series where a lot of guys get two or three goals, you know.
Yeah.
But if you made me pick one, I'll go with Shifley. I think he'll step up as well.
He would be second behind Connor,
Yeah.
plus 370. I like that though.
Yep.
I
Um,
definitely see one or multiple of these games going to overtime. And if it does go to
Yeah.
overtime, Winnipeg has Nino Niederreiter, and that guy has scored some
Yep.
pretty massive playoff goals in his career. So I wouldn't put it past him to bang in one more.
Mm-hmm.
I'll throw a dark horse out here. I think Buchnevich would be a good pick. I feel like he
Sure.
I feel like he would be a good pick for most goals in this series, especially if there's a lot of power plays involved. Could definitely see that happening. And based on our penalty predictions, I wouldn't say that's too far off. Any other notes we want to make other than what we've already said before we get to Vegas mini?
Once again, that Jets building is not easy to go into. It's a little bit smaller than every other NHL barn. I think it holds what, like a little over 15,000, but it's always loud. It's always crazy. You got to deal with the whiteout. So, it's not quite the Bell Center, but that's definitely a tough building that St. Louis is going to have to go into.
Last question. Which player has more pressure on them this postseason? Connor Hellebuck, who got torn apart last year by Colorado, or Mitch Marner?
Oh boy.
It's pretty close if you ask me.
I think I'll go with Marner just because the media there is that much more insane than it is in Winnipeg.
Fair.
Yeah, I can't argue with that.
I think if yeah, with the media, I'd probably agree, but I do think in terms of like weight on their shoulders, yes, Marner has to perform, but I think most people would agree Matthews is kind of the top dog. It's gonna fall on him the most.
Yeah.
With Winnipeg, like this is Hellebuck. Like last year
Yeah.
that he got ripped apart, and if he has it happen again, I feel like there's gonna be a lot of people coming out of the woodworks on him. So
Personally, I am not worried about Hellbuck this postseason whatsoever. I'm expecting him to have a big bounce back revenge postseason, at least this first round. I think he's going to play excellent.
I think I agree. I think the thing that's crazy about last year is, yeah, he had some bad ones that he should have had, but he got hung out to dry, like I would say a handful of times in that series. So I'm interested to see how the team plays this year in front of him. I think that'll be a huge indicator of what this Jets team is going to do.
for sure. All right, last series out west, the Vegas Golden Knights and the Minnesota
Uh,
Wild. We've got minus 190 favorites for the Golden Knights, plus 160 underdogs for the Minnesota Wild. In terms of the season series, VGK swept it, going 3-0. They covered the -1.5 puck line in two of those matchups. Uh, this is a good series now that Kirill Kaprizov and Joel Eriksson are back. I think this has a lot. This series should be a lot more interesting than what I think people are making it out to be. I think a lot of people have written Minnesota off, and now that they've got their two studs back, it could be a contest. I'll go out on a limb and say this, and this might upset a couple people, and I'm the biggest Jack Eichel fan alive. Trust me, I love me some Eichel action, but if Kaprizov is at 100%, Minnesota has the best player in this series.
Wow.
I'll go th-
I
I'll
yeah,
I'll go there.
I don't necessarily disagree. I'm gonna actually maybe piss some more people off and just double down a little bit here. I don't like this Vegas team at all. Like, and not I know people like no, I don't like the Vegas Golden Knights, but that's not what I mean. I don't like their lineup. Like, yes, they've got Eichel, yes, they've got Stone, they've got some game breakers like that. But like when you look at a well-rounded team and like actual full like lines and deep pairings, I don't think they have what it takes for a run this year.
Yeah, it's interesting with
Ooh,
them. How many games does Stone get to play in the postseason? Does anyone know? Is it like,
he'll play all. He
I,
ain't missing playoff time.
yeah, I
He's
don't I don't think he'll miss.
okay, so yeah, Mac, I see what you're saying. It's just, yeah, I feel like they've got some depth. I just don't know if they have enough depth. Does that make sense?
The D leaves a lot to be
Yeah,
desired for me. Ben
that's where I'm
Hutton
going with
and
this.
Caden Korchak or whatever the fuck. Even Nick
Yeah,
Hague and Zach Whitecloud, meh, whatever.
yeah,
I don't know if Petrangelo's back or not or whatever is happening there, but if
right.
he's not, that's even worse. Um, Also, Aiden Hill's healthy, right?
yes.
As far as I know,
I don't know why Daily Faceoff is like pretending he doesn't even exist. They don't have him under goalies. They don't have him under injuries or anything. They're
there's
literally
only
telling
one
me,
man they can turn to now.
yeah, exactly.
No,
Okay.
he's fine, and Petro is fine as well. I don't see any of their. They have four of their big guns out, but they're all just being rested.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, regardless, I think honestly, I think like if you're Minnesota 2 weeks ago and you're looking at all the possible scenarios of who you could play in the playoffs, I think you won the lottery. I think this is the best case
Yeah.
scenario that they could have gotten is playing Vegas. You don't want Winnipeg. You probably didn't want Colorado. I think there was a potential for that at one point. That would have been not good. Um, I think Minnesota has the far more well-rounded and deeper team.
Let me ask you this. So, for a while, it kind of looked like Vegas was going to get St. Louis. How would you feel about hypothetically a Blues team taking on this Knights team? Do you think they could handle them a little bit easier than Winnipeg or
Yes, I think it would have been way better for St. Louis to play Vegas than it would have been for St. Louis to play
call
Winnipeg.
me crazy? I think if that was the matchup, I would probably go Blues in six.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I honestly think like Vegas is like the biggest phony team in the postseason.
Okay. Wow, I like that.
Besides
Okay,
the New
we're getting
Jersey
serious.
Devils, because they're not even phonies, they're just not pretending even. We
Right.
all know that they're gonna maybe win like one playoff game. So
So as we're recording this, I believe we're recording this on Wednesday. I think Vegas has their last regular season game, and if they win that game, they will have had their best season since the inception of this team back in 2016 or 17, 18.
hang the
Did
banner.
yeah, did that was that a good season for them? Does anyone remember how that one ended?
Just worth noting there. We all know Eichel. He's had a career year. He's pretty much cemented himself as a top 10 player in the league at this point, based on what he's done this year. So a wild card factor here for Minnesota. Obviously, they get Kaprizov and Eriksson back. Zeev Bouillon, Nick, talk about this guy
Yeah.
because he might be making his NHL debut in this series for Mini.
So now that Leonard has signed and Demidov has signed, this is the best player currently not in an NHL uniform right now. I mean, his two-way game is ridiculous. We've seen it at the World Juniors these last 2 years. If you've watched Denver play a hockey game this year, then you saw what this guy is capable of. And I mean, he's definitely got a little bit of that Lane Hudson, Cale Makar in him. Obviously those guys are just absolute freaks to watch out there. I don't think this guy's too far behind him. He looks unbelievable. I mean, when he gets on his horse and just carries the puck from one end to the other, he's just unbelievable. So it's interesting. I don't, Harry, you and I were talking about this a little bit before we started recording, with a two-way defenseman, I would be a little hesitant to have them make their debut in the postseason because that's just such a double-edged sword to live and die by. But if you're talking to a player that's won back-to-back World Juniors, has won a national championship in the last 2 years, I mean, I don't know if there's anything that can phase that kid. So why not just throw him in and see if he can swim?
Makar did it.
Right.
I
Tom
also
Wilson did
think
it.
I honestly think Minnesota, when their decor is healthy, has one of the best, like most fully uh developed decors in the entire league. So it's gonna be hard to grab somebody from there to sit out. That's the bigger thing for me. I mean, you're looking at Middleton, Spurgeon, Brodeen, Faber, John Merrill, and Bogosian. I don't know if Zeev is lefty or righty, but I guess it'd probably be John Merrill that comes out, or maybe Bogosian. But
Probably. I'm glad you brought that up, though. That's sort of my big thing with this whole Minnesota team, and mainly the defense, but also going to like three or four guys up front. If they have any health problems at all, I think this team is done. If this team can stay healthy, I think they've got a legitimate shot at making the run at the conference finals here. But like, what's the MO been on Brodeen and Spurgeon for the last 10 years? It's just, oh no, I missed 30 games again. And I hate to say that because I like both of those guys, but um, it's sort of been like that with Eric Sinek and Kaprizov the last 2 years too. So I really hope for everyone's sake, but mainly the state of Minnesota, that those guys can stay healthy.
We've talked about exercising some demons here with LA trying to beat Edmonton for the fourth year in a row, Winnipeg having to get out of the first round for now the third year in a row. The Wild have not advanced past the first round since 2015 when they lost to Chicago in the second round, and then Chicago went on to win the cup. So it's been 10 years for Minnesota since they have won a postseason series. I'm going to respectfully disagree with the take on Vegas and their depth. I think these guys are very deep, and I don't think they're phonies, but I don't think that they are Colorado, Dallas, or Winnipeg. But I think they're really good, and I think they can handle the Minnesota Wild. Um, with that, let us get on to our predictions. Now, I was thinking about this before this segment. We are doing a Western episode now. We're doing an Eastern episode tomorrow. I'm wondering if the best way to do this is after we give our series predictions, we give who our Western Conference team will be representing the West in the Cup Finals
I like
today.
that.
And then tomorrow we give our Eastern team, and then we'll pick who wins the Stanley Cup Final. So, with this, let's start off with the most recent series we just talked about, Vegas and Minnesota. Who do you think is going to win this series? Mac, you can kick it off.
you want number of games too?
Yeah.
Sure. Yes, makes it more fun.
I will take the Minnesota Wild in 7 at a juicy plus 160. Love it.
I think I'm going to tell you.
I will go Vegas in 7.
Wow. So it's going the distance, boys, huh?
I think it could go the distance. If Minnie stays healthy, I think it goes the distance. Um, all right, let's talk about St. Louis and Winnipeg. Nick, you start this one off, and I'll go first on the next one.
Oh man, this is tough. This is tough. I wish you would have saved this one for last, but I just can't get over how good the Blues have been playing for the last like
Oh,
2 to 3 weeks. But at the end of the day, I think that Jets team is just going to be the immovable object that they end up running into. So I'm gonna go Winnipeg in 6.
Is this the hardest series to predict? I feel like it might be. I don't know.
Not for me.
Uh, this one's tough, man. Listen, I really see a world where St. Louis takes this, but I'm thinking about all these like self-help books that the Jets have been reading since last year and like all this shit to like
Uh,
that like it just lives in their head that they lost to Colorado. But God, Holloway being out. I hate that I'm taking the chalk. I want to take St. Louis so bad, but I can't do it. I can't do it. I guess I'm taking Winnipeg.
Okay. How
how many
many
games?
games?
Uh, 6.
I'm gonna go Jets in 5, boys. I don't buy this. I don't
Whoa.
buy it at all from the Blues. I really don't.
So you think it's all smoke and mirrors?
I think nice run, sick to qualify and everything, but I just do not think they have what it takes to compete with this Jets team. And I think the
Damn.
Jets are too pissed off from last year. I think Hellebuck is gonna probably have like a shutout and another game where he lets in like one goal. I really think they're just gonna freaking suffocate this Blues team as good as they've been down the stretch.
All right, I like that. So we all took Winnipeg.
Correct.
That's not good. Okay, what could go wrong when all three guys picked the President's Trophy
Jet
winner, right?
Blues in 4.
Yeah, Blues sweep, right?
Fuck yeah.
Get the brooms out. All right, LA and Edmonton. I'll kick this one off because you two have already gone first once. Give me the Oilers. I'm not gonna think twice. I ain't betting against 97 and 29. The line screams for you to take LA. Vegas knows something. It's gonna be Edmonton, and I'm gonna say Edmonton in 7.
Wow. Mac,
LA in 7.
Kings in 6.
Love it. Let's go.
Wow. Okay. So that's
Fuck 'em.
two series now where you two agree and I go against the grain, of course. Last series, Dallas and Colorado. Mac, we're going back to you to kick it off.
I hope I'm wrong, but I've got the Avs in 7, and I think it could even be 6. I'm too worried about Miro Heiskanen and what he means to that team.
Harry,
I have a much stronger gut feeling that Dallas is going to win this series than I thought I would, just based on gut. Uh, we're all going to pick Colorado, which makes me, well, maybe Nick won't. I don't know. I'm taking the Avs. Who am I kidding?
Avs in what?
Avs in 6.
Okay. Dallas in 6.
Thank you.
How about that?
Someone
Let's
had to do
go.
it, and
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't have
glad
the
he did.
balls. Yeah.
Yeah, fuck
Good
yeah.
man. Good
I
man.
have I have a feeling this is going to be Thomas Harley's coming out party. We
Let's
saw
go.
how good he was in the
Yep,
World Juniors. I think with Heiskanen out, he's going to log a lot more minutes. So,
good. Let's see it.
All right, the
so
time is
congrats to the Avs again this year.
the time has come. Who do you think will be representing the Western Conference in the Stanley Cup Finals? And a reminder to the listeners, the next episode, which will drop tomorrow, we will give our East team, and we will also give the winner of the Stanley Cup Finals. I still don't know my answer as I'm saying this, by the way. Who wants to kick it off?
Not me. I'm going
Mine's
second.
Wild. You guys are going to roast me forever for this,
You're
but
picking the Wild?
no, not the Wild. It's just Wild. That
You're
would
not
be
that
way too
crazy.
crazy
Yeah,
for the Wild.
right.
All right, Nick, let's hear it.
The Los Angeles Kings will be
Let's
going to the
go.
Stanley Cup final.
I hope you're right.
I like that pick. It's a good value pick. It's not chalk. I'm with it.
I think that's the team that if they get hot, everyone else is just going to go, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Yep. I wanted to say Colorado, but I really do still have questions about the woodshed. Um, I believe way too much in this Jets team. I really think that it's one of those years where the President's Trophy team is actually just super good and isn't cursed and might win the Stanley Cup. And
Wow.
I do think they'll make it out of the West.
Damn, I love that. Because like I'm letting it marinate, I'm like, yeah, the Jets could go to the Cup final. I totally see it.
And I also just think I really believe that they're gonna have not too much of an issue with St. Louis. They'll have kind of a shorter series ideally, and come out of the first round kind of, with some more rest and not as many games. So Jets.
Jets Kings conference final would be pretty sweet.
This one is tough, boys. Let me tell you. Hmm. I don't want to do this. I kind of want a little bit want to do it, but I kind of don't want to do it. But I think you guys are sleeping on Vegas big time, and I'm
Oh,
going to take the
come
Knights. I'm
on.
Oh,
taking the Knights.
bullshit, dude.
No, I think you guys are really
Not a
underestimating this team.
chance.
I
Not a
was I was just
chance.
waiting for I think the Edmonton Oilers
I
will be
thought
going to
that's
the
what he was
Stanley
gonna
Cup
say
final
too.
once
I thought
again.
that's what he was gonna
No, I
say.
think you guys are sleeping on Vegas. Listen, I don't really want it because they just won the Cup 2 years ago. Like, it's still a new franchise. It pisses people off. Like, they got their time. But I think that decor, I'm just being honest. I think that's built for the postseason,
The
in my opinion.
decor? You think Nick Hague and Zach Whitecloud are taking this team all the way?
I think McNabb, Theodore, Hannafin, and Petrangelo is one of the best top fours you could put in the playoffs. Petrangelo is. I just think you guys are sleeping on him a little bit. That's all I'm saying. I'm a little worried about the goaltending, but I think that their roster is absolutely loaded.
Yeah, I mean, if Aiden Hill's game gets shaky, they don't have LT to go to. They just have a guy who's going to be looking for his hockey stick for 45 minutes.
They may
So
even turn to Akira Schmid before they go to that guy. Sammy's been
true.
hurt down the stretch and has all kinds of other issues, as we know. So
I'm going Vegas. I like that all three of us are picking different teams. I will say.
yeah, we're covering our bases, so at least one of us looks smart.
I was going to say we can't all be wrong again for the fifth year in a row, so it's nice to spread it out a little bit.
Okay.
Fast forward a month and a half from now, and the St. Louis Blues are your Western
No,
Conference champion.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, the Dallas Stars have made the Stanley Cup. Yeah,
We're all
right.
just fuck. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, great kickstart to round one of the playoffs. We will be dropping our Eastern Conference predictions for round one tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that. And then all the action kicks off Saturday, which is going to be awesome. You can comment on the episode on Spotify, or if you're watching on YouTube, you can leave a comment. Who do you think will be going to the Stanley Cup Finals out of the Western Conference? Would love to hear some opinions here. So.
Gentlemen, just one more thing before we wrap up here. Did anyone happen to catch a certain Champions League match against Real Madrid today? Because guess who sent the champs packing? Your boys,
Oh.
Arsenal. So big win today. I'm still buzzing from it.
Congrats.
Shout out to Rory for that Masters performance
That
too. I
was
mean,
awesome.
I don't want to talk too much about that, but that was one of the coolest things that I've witnessed as a sports fan. And I don't even really watch golf that much, but that last round was epic.
Gotta watch the Masters.
Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty
and
cool
while we're
stuff.
talking about peak athletic performances, shout out to Charlie Morton, man. I mean, what a freaking legendary baseball player. He definitely shouldn't retire anytime
There,
soon.
there you go. Well said.
Well said, Mac. All right, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow for the Eastern Conference previews. Hope you enjoyed this one, and we'll chat mañana.